Hey everybody, it's the Old Wolf here again for another episode of the Witch and Wolf Wisdom podcast. Another Tuesday night, coming at you live from Rochester, New York, May 17th, 2022. Yes, the graphic still says episode 28, Tuesday Night Fights. Yes, it is redundant from last week. And the obvious context is because I couldn't get into anything to edit a goddamn thing. So yeah, these things happen sometimes. Not gonna lie about it, not gonna make excuses. It is what it is. Tonight we're gonna do a fireside chat. We're gonna engage for those of you who do show up and join us. If not, I'll just talk and play music like I always do. For those of you that do join us, now or later, thank you again as always. I always like to make it a point. The views, expressions, opinions, therefore expressed are mine and mine alone. Yes, I am the Old Wolf. The music is also owned, produced, written by myself, the Old Wolf. There are a lot of people who have been involved with it, and I mention them as they go along, and they have writing credits and everything that goes along with it. But for all intents and purposes, the podcast is me. And the witch, when the witch is around, and the witch is not around. She is off on her adventure. She's somewhere, I believe, in Virginia, having dinner right now. But she will be back soon, doing her lives and her things. But for tonight, again, the podcast, you got me. So yes, we're going to keep it simple tonight. We're going to have that fireside chat, as Shiya likes to refer to it as, with the flames to give it some style. Again, I like to engage with people. I have found over the years, not only is it incredibly helpful from a variety of different angles, but it can be entertaining, it can be thoughtful, it can be so many different things. Human interaction, I have always found, is, one of our core strengths, and it's also, like a lot of things, it's got a double edge. It's one of our core weaknesses. Communication breakdown, I talk about it a lot, leads to all kinds of funky shit. My sister Liz, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, a lot of times, people don't feel they have a place to express themselves. They don't feel that they're being heard, or more importantly, they don't feel that anybody actually gives a shit, that anybody's listening, or that anybody even agrees. We are conditioned many times, and this is an unfortunate pattern a lot of us go through from early childhood. We're told that our feelings don't count, our opinions don't count. Hey, you're fucking stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. You're overreacting. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard this kind of shit over the years. I think it's a huge mistake. Regardless if we agree or understand, how a person feels is how they feel, especially in the moment. It is not our place, more times than not, to really judge that. Now, again, context being what it is, if you're an 18-year-old neo-Nazi up here in Buffalo, live streaming, shooting a bunch of innocent folk because of the color of their skin, I don't give a fuck how you feel. Okay, I'm sorry. But in that particular context, it doesn't count. It doesn't apply. There are always exceptions to the rule. Okay? But for the most part, I want people, at least within my world, within my circles, to feel that they have a place, that they can express how they feel, they can vent, they can dump, they can laugh, they can cry, they can say whatever the fuck they want. As I am obviously saying what the fuck I want. My sister, the Goblin Queen, I heard you and the witch had an interesting meetup. I'm sorry she wasn't able, obviously, to hang around longer. She's been on a kind of a, fear and loathing up and down the East Coast kind of trip. It's been really good, but it's been a lot. But we plan on getting back down your way soon, or we'll get your silly goblin ass up this way. Ah, you got yourself banned at a Buffalo Mart gas station because I tossed chips at a cashier for refusing to cash out two super old black people. Yeah, listen, I'm with you. You know, there are some things, I'm sorry, you don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but nobody, and I mean nobody, should be treated less than because of the color of their skin, okay? If somebody's an asshole, they're an asshole. It doesn't matter if they're black, white, red, yellow, green, blue. You know, that's all superficial shit. And I also, too, I call that shit out. That is one of my triggers. Okay, there's no room for it in the world anymore as far as I'm concerned. Okay? But hey, people still feel this way, and it's obviously evident. And you know, again, I'm sorry, I don't care whatever the media is spinning. Okay, this kid live streamed it on Twitch. Okay, he posted this stuff out here. He's been posting this stuff out for quite some time. This is not some false flag. This is a kid who, for whatever reason, went sideways. I'm not saying it's parents' fault. I'm not blaming anybody. Okay, but the kid went sideways. You know what I mean? And he was very, very open about how he felt. He doesn't like black people. He doesn't like Jews. He believes in this insanity that is referred to as replacement theory. Replacement theory basically says that there is some type of global conspiracy where everybody who isn't white is trying to get rid of white people within the framework of the United States and Europe. This is your general, you know, kind of white fear mongering type of stuff. It goes all the way back to like the John Birch Society in the 60s and the anti-communism. And you can trace it even further back. It has ties back to Nazi Germany and, you know, a lot of these other dynamics. You know, racism isn't unique specifically to Nazis or the fucking KKK. Racism is an unfortunate, ugly human trait that, depending upon where you are in the world at any given moment, you go to Ireland and you will find racism in a completely different form. You go to Sicily and you will find racism in a completely different form. You go to South Africa and you will find racism that is similar to the systemic racism that you find here in the United States, but even still, it is different because of the cultural dynamics. Welcome, welcome, my sister Diana. I see, thank you for joining us. Paula, it's okay to be an asshole. I'm an asshole too. But we don't do readings on Tuesday nights. This is just open discussion, okay? This is music. This is, you know, we dance around with different issues. I pontificate sometimes. And then other times, you know, people will throw things into the mix that we will discuss as a group, that I'll comment on and other people will comment on. My sister Honora, great to see you as well, too. So if you would like to come back on one of the nights that we actually do Tara, Paula, you're more than welcome to come back and hang out and you can have a reading. Tammy, great to see you as well. Good evening. So yeah, the framework again, and Tuesday Night Fights is not exactly what's going on tonight. Yeah, listen, we've all got a lot of assholes around us. And you're welcome to. Listen, that you are absolutely free. Again, within reason, please don't, you know, post, you know, bomb manifestos. And I say this sarcastically and jokingly, but I also say it seriously. And I'm not suggesting that's you, Paula. I say it to everybody. You know, within a, you know, an open framework, you know, you can vent, you can talk, you can be an asshole. That is completely fine as long as it doesn't go into that deep kind of dirty, oh my God, somebody shit in my bed, asshole. Brother John, welcome from Oklahoma. So yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on and everybody has feelings and perspectives and opinions. But in the back to the here and now thing, my belief and Shia's belief has always been that, you know, one of our best tools in dealing with some of these dynamics and elements is to talk about it. Okay? And that was probably a little bit of a glitch that just happened there for a minute. I just saw it just kind of being funky. It dipped out, and then I just kind of came back. Welcome to retrograde and technology and computers and all that bullshit. So, yeah, if there was a bit of a pop there and it got weird, it kind of froze up on my second. Didn't crash this time. So, those of you that were with me the other night when we were actually doing a live, we did a Friday the 13th live, and the fucking thing crashed multiple times. On the third time, I finally got it back up stable, running, and we ran until, 11:30, almost quarter to 12, I think it was, before we finally fished it up. Yeah, listen, again, whatever works. Sometimes just vocalizing a dynamic, especially when we're surrounded by assholes and people are just putting that bullshit on us. Sometimes the only thing we can do is vent it, because there is a dynamic. There is real science. Okay, honest science that goes with it. Energy, I talk about this all the time, has many different forms. So the energies that we carry, not unlike how microwave energy, how sound, you can't actually see radiation. You can't actually see. You can't see your Wi-Fi signal. These are all real dynamics of things in a framework of energy. That energy carries over, not unlike if you're standing next to somebody who's sick and they sneeze on you, they pass those germs. Well, energy transfers between people. It transfers between places and objects. So when people are putting out that shitty energy, okay, being an asshole type of stuff, it carries over. And especially for high-functioning empaths, there's not only emotional but physical reactions. It will make you sick. It'll give you a headache. It will change the dynamic of everything around us and then some. And they've proven it scientifically. You know what I mean? It comes in many different forms. One variation on it is the mob mentality. One person starts going fucking sideways, 10 people start going sideways, and the next thing you know, you get a bunch of fucking lemmings all jumping off the fucking cliff. You also see it within children. If you have a child and a group of children, daycare teachers have seen this numerous times. One child will become upset, and then all the children around that child will become upset because instinctively they react to the energy. They don't have the conditioning, the filters, and all the other elements that we have as we grow up, as we become adults. And Paula says, yes, I want to scream out my car window at a bunch of assholes, but don't. This is making me laugh so hard saying assholes. Good. Laughter. And you got it. You hit right to the next part of this. Laughter is one of those great healing things. It can diffuse elements around us. It can change the dynamic. Trill says, I'm looking forward to listening to your music so I can calm down. You're in a furious rage at the moment. I'm sorry to hear that. Feel free to dump and vent and scream to whatever degree. I will keep music going on in the background here. Alrighty. Sometimes it's a little difficult. There we go. We'll adjust that setting there. We'll bring that one back up there. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, I think we found a bit of a balance. All right. Cheryl, let me know if that works for you. If you've got a little bit of balance in the back versus my voice. One of the upgrades that Shiya and I are going to do when she gets back is to put in a little bit more dynamic so that way we can monitor the sounds of what's actually going on. It's a little bit difficult to do for Shiya when she does the lives, especially because she'll actually do live video. So it's kind of hard to sit there with a fucking headset on and do tarot for people and stuff like that. So we're still trying to find a balance. We are very organic. We are like Wayne's World. We're doing this out of our fucking garage. But it's also real. You know what I mean? We're not trying to pretend to be anything more than it is. Or at least we hope we're not. Cheryl says her ex-husband refused to help pay for her daughter's cremation, but he wants possession of her ashes. Oh, Jesus, that's fucking horrible. Yeah, that's a no-win situation, Cheryl. There's no way around that, because obviously there is no dynamic thing, one parent to another. I couldn't imagine the context of losing a child. So, I mean, that in itself is the horrendous element. So obviously every little thing that kind of segues off of that is just a shitty reminder of a shitty situation. Again, as one parent to a number, and just as one human to a number, my best humble suggestion to you is just, take what you need and leave the fucking rest behind. To some degrees, and again, it goes back to the point that I was just saying, and again, just from my perspective, the negative energy, the bullshit, is just simply not worth it. Nothing's going to change the dynamic. So kind of, swimming in a pool of shit, to me, it doesn't make sense. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure their dynamics outside the box, hence why he is X. You know what I mean? So I'm sure you've got a whole bunch of things that have pissed you off regarding that dynamic. And it's not about judgment. It's simply about your sanity, your peace of mind, and in many ways, your quality of life. Nobody should have to dance within these dynamics. And people do shitty things on a constant basis. So, for what it's worth, you have our support, you have our love. You know what I mean? Really, again, condolences. I am sorry, for what it's worth in regards to your daughter. That's, no parent should ever have to deal with that aspect. So you try and hang in there for whatever it is worth. Coincidentally, I have Mama Rocks, running in the background, and, Mama Rocks goes to that dynamic. Someone that we knew who lost her daughter. We can't change these shitty, horrible things, but we can sometimes, again, put a different spin on them. We can redirect some of that energy, turn it into a helpful context, turning it into a teaching, learning context. You know what I mean? You're going to carry that, an old Beatles tune from an album called Abbey Road references, you're going to carry that weight a long time. You know what I mean? And there's no way around that. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of blowing smoke up people's asses. I think most of us don't appreciate it. We wear the mask and we'll pretend because it's impolite to do otherwise. But, again, if we're going to have an honest conversation, that's what I always try and do, even if it's a little rough and maybe sometimes gets, a little uncomfortable. I'd rather have the honest conversation, because with honesty, at least, in my belief and in my experience, you have a framework to change things. If you're just chasing smoke and mirrors and bullshit and lies, by their very definition, because they're not real, you can't change the dynamic. You know what I mean? It's an oxymoron, but it really is a simple analogy. Better to deal with something for what it is, in the truth of what it is, than to dance around everything else. But that's just me. I'm an old wolf. So we got a lot of things coming up. A lot of really exciting things. For me, musically, in reconnecting with some people, I've mentioned them before. My brother, Tony Rodriguez from the Under My Skin for Life Foundation, which I am a member of. My brother Greg Carr Schumann, who I've known for over 30 years, was best man at my wedding, with a lot of other people that I've been blessed to be able to interact with, both musically and on other levels. Hey Mimi, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. And it's amazing. We talk about changing the dynamics of our life sometimes, and we really, again, control so much, but we become conditioned. We become afraid. You know what I mean? We don't push the boundaries because of this, because of that. And I'm here to say that you don't have to live that way. You know what I mean? Public service message from the old wolf. You can change the dynamics of your life, regardless of how fucking ridiculous, fucked up, crazy it may seem. Now, I'm not saying that it will be easy necessarily. And a lot of times, yes, it's not always fun. However, I can say with absolute certainty that in doing so, you can set the stage for much better. You can change dynamics of elements, even if they've been conditioned elements for years. You know, and again, this is what happens to us. We get caught up in patterns. You know, we get so used to being shut down that our feelings don't count, that what we say doesn't count, that we actually begin to believe that. So we stop speaking, we stop expressing how we feel, we stop trying to grow, to be better, to explore. You know, all these different elements, they all come back together within the same framework. So that's why, you know, that communication aspect, that little just, hey, you know, sometimes just being able to scream out the window because somebody's being a fucking asshole. You know, it's a thing. You know, again, I don't know any other way to put it in that, and especially in the moment, sometimes it is a dynamic of the lesser evils, okay? I'm not saying that it applies every time, because we all know that it doesn't. But there is a case to be made, okay? A strong case to be made that when faced with certain dynamics, like AKA, if the option is, you know, you're going to go jump off the bridge, or you're going to scream a whole bunch of fucking curse words out the window at some, you know, random idiots, you know what? Go fucking curse yourself crazy. I would much rather, again, deal with that dynamic than have to deal with the dynamic of somebody just being so driven down, so disconnected, that they feel that taking their life somehow is a better option. Now, again, that's just one analogy, and I bring it up because, you know, there have been some things that have been coming out through, you know, different news sites and academic groups, and unfortunately, because of all the other fucking craziness that's been going on in the world, a lot of stuff that's actually important just kind of gets buried. You know, we don't really see it. It doesn't get talked about because it's not on the front page of the national news and this, that, and the other thing. But I think it's incredibly important. We've been seeing an incredibly horrible spike in depression aspects, addiction, suicide, domestic abuse, violence in general. But yet, listen, again, we all have different points where we need to scream and yell or vent. You know what I mean? Sometimes we just have to do that. You know, it's, you know, here is the analogy. You know what I mean? If you eat a bunch of Taco Bell, you're going to have to take a shit, okay? And if the context is shitting your pants, or, you know, getting swifty and shitting on the floor, I don't know. Lesser of the two evils, maybe? You know what I mean? Again, and it's a dynamic that, you know, again, obviously is going to vary in situation to situation. I joke a lot. I use sarcasm to paint my pictures, to weave my tapestries. But ultimately, you know, situationally, you know, some dynamics, especially in the moment, we don't get a lot of time to have a debate and, you know, get the mental committee together. All right, let's have a conference. Let's bring everybody in. Let's discuss. No, things happen so fast in the moment. You know, some fucking jerk off shoots across 4 lanes of traffic, cutting 13 people off just so that way he can get to Starbucks ahead of, somebody else. Yeah, you know what I mean? Those dynamics, they trigger us. So it's okay sometimes to be like, you roll your window down and like, you stupid motherfucker! It's okay. It's better than pulling a gun out and shooting them. Again, context. Lesser of two evils. Okay? So when we can have these conversations, and especially when we have places where we can vent, where we can talk about things that maybe other people around us can't understand, because that's another dynamic, and I hear it all the time, especially if you dance on the outside spectrums within, mystical or, spiritual aspects, be it Tara or this or that. A lot of people are like, oh, you're evil, or, oh, you know what I mean? You're into weird shit, you're strange. You know what I mean? We're all fucking strange. You know what I mean? That's context. And again, I got a monkey standing next to me, giving me the. Go ahead, monkey. You're here. We're live.
Hi.
Hello. Say hi to the monkey. Hey, my sister Jamie. Great to see you. How is brother Derek doing down there? So, since you have decided to jump in here now, we're going to have this interaction live because it's my podcast and I can do that. So you're standing there with your phone and you're showing me an app, and I'm assuming that because of what you're showing me with an app, you're asking me, would I like something within said app? Now, we can't say it now because we got copyright elements and stuff like that, and I'm not endorsing these fuckers, and I'm surely not going to be like, hey, you can't say our name, so we're not going to say your fucking name. You'd be grateful you might actually get some of our fucking money. Oh, not good. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, hopefully things will get better. I'm not sure what's going on, but I am sorry to hear. I mean, you're welcome to dump and scream and vent. That's what tonight is. Just, hey. Chris, great to see you as well, too. So, yes. Monkey of mine, pass along to me. So yes, and again, listen, communication, as much as we sometimes desperately want to fucking avoid it.
It is desperately needed.
It is desperately needed. Thank you. And what's your take on it? I'd like to hear your opinion while I scroll through said app.
One, venting frustrations versus
communicating certain dynamics of things.
I mean, I've always felt that most people are poor communicators, that they say what they want to say. And that's all well and dandy, but they don't say it right.
Using the analogy, it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Yeah. And I like to use Rick and Morty as my example, is that, how no matter how much Rick may be right, nobody wants to give him the satisfaction because he's such an asshole about it. So, just depending on how you bring something up can determine how other people react. Yeah, you may have problems, but people may not want to listen if you don't talk about it the right way. At least that's my take.
That is a very good point. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, indeed. So, yes, there are multiple angles, multiple variables. Jamie, he's going through pain issues. Yeah, that sucks. Again, that's a tough one because there, not a lot of words. I know, Reiki helps me to certain degrees, but once it hits a certain threshold, not even the Reiki's fucking getting in at it. And, it sucks. So
yeah, back problems are nothing to sneeze at. I have a friend who needs to get spinal fusion surgery soon, and they're in pain
they're tough
every day.
And I know from our conversations and stuff like that he has some chronic elements from the accident and things and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a shit show, hon. It's a shit show.
Well, best of luck. Try and figure out a way to live,
Yeah, listen,
day to day.
A lot of it is finding the best balance we can in that quality of life bracket, which again is not always easy. So like I said earlier, tonight is yours. So if anybody's got anything they want to vent, they want to throw out there, they want to talk about, short of tarot readings, because, yeah, we don't do tarot readings on Tuesday night. Jamie said he's had the spinal fusion elements. We're right, yeah. Yeah, it's tough. You know, there's not a whole lot of options besides basically shutting down, you know, a lot of the nerve aspects. And, you know, I am no doctor or a physician. The little bit that I do know, you know, it's not pretty. You know, and again, these are the dynamics that, you know, again, you know, will throw the proverbial monkey wrench into the mix.
Yeah, I resemble that stuff.
I know you resemble that wrench because you are a monkey. But yes, so yes, tonight is yours. So if anybody's got anything they'd like to throw out there, we'll take a few minutes and do some discussion. In between, as always, I like to talk about, you know, what we do. Please, you know, if you haven't already, join us on YouTube. Yes, we like people to subscribe and to share the stuff. We're, you know, social media is what it is, but again,
it's just a button. Go ahead and click it.
That was your inner voice telling you it's just really it you know, it's a good thing. It helps us out. It doesn't cost anything. But more importantly, share the music. Share it. You know what I mean? That's what it's there for. You don't have to pay anything for the music. That's why we've done it and released it the way that we have. Is that way so people could have access to it for free. Good morning, Zenda. Thank you for joining us. And listen, great. Welcome. Great to have people from on the other side of the globe, Australia. We have a lot of people who follow us from out there, New Zealand, all over the world, and I'm a huge fan of that. I love the diversity. I love the dynamics that people bring. You know what I mean? You know, it is, in my humble opinion, an incredibly old and powerful form of magic. You know what I mean? And it's just my interpretation of how magic works. Yeah, I have to imagine that is tough. You're alone a lot of the time because he's always hurting, and it limits his ability to interact. My sister Ashley Hart. Perfect timing, because we were just discussing some of the elements of the things that we do and the people that support us. And by coincidence, Ashley Hart has shown up from Heart's Creations, Dream Catchers with Intention. No joke. Got 2 of them coming from Ashley that she just made. Any of you that follow us on Facebook or follow her on Facebook, she made a Jack and Sally combo set. Holy fucking shit. Incredible work. Absolutely beautiful. I saw them, fucking fell in love with them. I was like, nope, done, sold. Just done. Just like that. And listen, I mean, again, in the dynamic, you know, there's a lot of people that make a lot of things and sell this, that, and the other thing. But there are people like Ashley that really put magic into it. They put their heart, they put their love in it. And it isn't just about money. Because let me tell you, I've seen people with dream catchers that are not even fucking 20% of the effort and materials that Ashley does for a whole lot fucking more. And you don't have to take my word for it. Yeah, just go on Google and take a look at, you know, like what some of these types of pieces go for in a lot of places. So yeah, Ashley is definitely somebody you want to go check her out on Facebook. Again, Heart's Creations. And she's actually I commissioned her to do a custom one for an autism event in the fall that we'll talk about more down the road, and we'll promo out here. We have a few other people that we interact, you know, with Suzanne from over here, Mystical Moons, supported the last songwriting contest that we did, that we've been working on. And again, same analogy. She's not just selling elements. This is part of who she is, part of what she does. And just mention myself or the witch, Lady Shiya, and get 25% off your first order. So definitely go check her out. You know what I mean? Facebook.com, Mystical Moons Live, or www.mysticalmoons.com. Alyssa, my sister, my Pazani sister. Hey, what you doing out there, Alyssa? You come to me on my daughter's wedding, and you ask these things of me. But yet, do you ever ask me for a cup of coffee? Alyssa, it's great to see you, hon. Yes, Shiya was doing some adventures with Alyssa over the past week and stuff like that. Shiya is on her way back up. Alyssa is in South Carolina setting up. She will definitely be somebody that y'all be seeing around a little bit more. And a lot of things that we will be talking about once Shiya gets back and we can get things a little bit more structured between the music and the podcast and the lives and, you know, a bunch of the other things that go on, like, you know, the mentorship circle. And that is the core where Shiya and I, mostly Shiya, does a lot of her teaching. She does self-paced elements, not only of Reiki and Tara, but crystals, shadow work, healing. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. And it's also a community where people can interact, discuss things, work on things. And also, too, if you follow the lives, if you do tarot readings or any of that type of stuff, you get a discount. Shiya also does, you know, for those of you that can't come on the live, she does private video readings. You can just reach out to her and catch up with her anytime. Very easy to do. And, you know, again, my brother, Tony Rodriguez, over at www.brokenpassnewjersey.com. He's also the Papo Sticker Company, www.papostickercompany.com. Again, the papostickercompany.com, you can get any type of custom thing that you could ever imagine. You could get a customized wallet. You can get a customized bra. You could get a bunch of bumper stickers made. You could have a coffee cup made. You could have one of them or 100 of them made, okay? He can do custom anything in any context that you guys could ever imagine, okay? And he can do it on smaller or large scale basis. So if you just want one-off, if you want to get your grandmother, you know, that custom unique mug with that picture from Christmas 8 years ago, he's the guy that can take that and make that into a one-of-a-kind family souvenir type of thing. And again, not just about the money. He believes in what he does. He loves what he does. He's also, again, a single father, a tattoo artist, a musician, and he's also the head of our foundation, the Under My Skin for Life Foundation, which actually happens to be the name of his tattoo shop, the Under My Skin Tattoo Shop. But he has been working, we have been working for years within elements for kids with autism, veterans elements, and, you know, local aspects, you know, when things happen to people. You know, granted, again, we're not like the American Cancer Society where we're all over the fucking country with millions and millions of fucking dollars. Let's spread it around. But our motto is and has been and will continue to be helping those in time of need to the best that we can. And Lisa, yes, I know you got to meet him. He was really busy and caught up, so, you know, unfortunately wasn't able to spend a lot of time with you guys. But those are all things, you know, coming down the pike. So, yes. So we're going to take a couple minutes. I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm going to put on a video, one of the tracks that we have put out there. The photography is by a good friend, my brother, Rick Garrity. Shiya did the arrangement for the video, and obviously the music is myself, Matt Brown, Tony Rodriguez, and my son, the Monkey, on this track musically. It's a track called View Below. So we're going to play that, let that run around, and then we'll be back to talk a bit more. So enjoy.
race towards the edge. There's a tension ever growing in the air. A child drags a blanket through the mud. She hides her eyes from the gleam of the sun, but we say, as below, so above, it shall be. The so-called trickle down the piss of royalty. A world of stone and rock, the pain within our feet. Over the empty seas to most certainly his grave. In his wallet a wrinkled photograph of family's embrace. By decree of the crown, to war for naught but vain, they send the desperate poor to die, but we say, as above, so below, it will be. Tower of reflective glass, the view below their feet. We see ourselves while looking in, but inside can't be seen. The old proverb speaks true. Something about homes of glass and throwing stones. Well, the rocks have been just streaming down from the top of the palace walls. Wouldn't it be just a shame if we returned him home? As above and below we will be. How soon we see you back around, broken on your knees. The pinnacle of wealth abound, now a pile of debris.
So yes, that was The View Below, one of the tracks on the upcoming album release of mine, Music from the Garden. So yeah, some of the tracks, good part of the tracks, have a lot of darker elements because they were expressions of those elements. Some of these tracks started over 3 years ago, and they took a while to kind of finally find their way to completion. As with all things in life, things don't always work out the way that we want them to. But when we persevere and when we continue to work towards the things that are important to us, that mean something to us, yeah, anything is possible. And I'm releasing a fucking album, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. So yes, there's that. So again, for those of you that are still hanging around, it is an open chat format tonight. So, anybody that has anything they want to vent, dump, and or, throw out into the mix, please feel free to. Otherwise, I will just kind of dance around the elements that are going on around me. And if they make sense, if they have relevance, if they speak to you, great. You know what I mean? If not, yeah, listen, I get it. Sometimes, things don't make sense. Sometimes there isn't a connection. It's like a radio station. You know what I mean? You may not like what you're hearing on that particular station, but the beautiful thing is there's a lot of other fucking stations. You can change the station and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to this. But in the world around us, sometimes it's not always that simple. We can change a radio station, but we can't always change the dynamics of the people around us in the purest sense of the form, especially in the moment. Those of you that are parents and have younger children know what I'm talking about. Children will be children. They will have their moments. And as adults, as parents, we have to hold a line. We have to act in a particular way. Okay. Not always easy. Okay. It can be challenging. It can be frustrating. But it is one of those dynamics that is reflective of context again. Children don't have the type of control that we as adults are supposed to at least have, though I have met children that had more control than a lot of adults that I know. But hey, again, everybody's got a different speed. A lot of people dance, as they say, quite literally, to a different beat. Doesn't always necessarily make it wrong. But again, now we are dancing with some new dynamics, in my humble opinion. And yes, they are definitely attached to the old. Okay, I don't think anybody believes that racism is a new thing. I don't think anybody believes that violence or hatred or abuse are somehow new things, but things get polarized based on the dynamics, again, of a situation, of a moment. You know what I mean? And then you throw technology into it, so we have this whole new dynamic. Whereas back when I was a kid, you pick up a newspaper, there were like 3 or 4 channels that you had to choose from. You didn't have thousands of stations that you had, your main network news, and you had PBS. You know what I mean? And then you had a couple other stations that started popping out as the years kind of rolled in by, and you got Kung Fu Theater on Saturdays, and you got Saturday morning cartoons. And then you had Masterpiece Theater on Sunday nights. And then maybe, if you were allowed to stay up, you got to watch Monty Python. Now, again, as a kid, that blew me the fuck away, watching Monty Python's Flying Circus on PBS. But now, everything, literally, even within the moment, okay, is instantly, bang, World Star! You know what I mean? And some of it is not fucking pretty. Some of it is definitely like, wow. Do we really have to see that? I don't know. I don't know what your age is, Tiffany. So I am 54 years old. I was born in 1968. So if you're in that zone, maybe I might be your age. But that's me. I am a child of the late 60s. I am definitely one of those summer of love children. And, my mother jokes about it, but, hey, it is what it is, We are all products of our times, of our cultures, of our circumstances. So yeah, you're the same age as my sister. So you know a lot of the dynamics, you were growing up with them as well too. You remember, Saturday morning cartoons, you know what I mean? Scooby-Doo and H&R Puffin stuff. Shit like that. Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny was the shit. for a long time. But you didn't have a whole lot of cartoons to choose from. You know, like Disney was not something that you got to watch on TV. You actually had to go to a fucking movie theater if you wanted to go see Disney. And it wasn't till really, you know, I guess I would have to say, you know, the early 80s that you really started to see any real context of, you know, video, like, you know, VHS or Laserdisc type elements. Andy says 65. Yeah, you know, you're right in that wheelhouse as well, too. You know, the late 60s. You know what I mean? Our parents were definitely of a different generational dynamic, a different, you know, cross-section, just as their parents were children of the Depression. You know, so there are a lot of dynamics, you know, again, that you can correlate. And it does reflect also in many ways, and George Carlin used to talk about this a lot, in how we communicate, because our perceptions, our experiences are what directly influences that. And I'm not saying it makes it right, you know what I mean? A lot of people will use a justification, well, you know, he's just an old-timer from the South, that's just how they... Yeah, you know what? I'm sure that flies at the KKK meeting, but, you know, there has to be a bit of a kind of a, you know, hey, reality check. Now, again, that's an extreme context situation, okay? That's not to say that every old person from the South is somehow a fucking closet fucking KKK racist. It's not what I'm trying to say. I'm using the analogy about how different time periods, again, reflect on dynamics of how we communicate and interact. For me, within the framework, within my parents and their parents, you know, I originally grew up in a very, very deep Roman Catholic context. You know, my grandfather was the original template for shit like the John Birch Society. He hung with McCarthy and spent his life hunting down communists wherever they would fucking hide. And believe me, regarding my grandfather, they were fucking hiding everywhere. That was the dynamic, again, that he carried forward from World War II and his experiences. So, you know, again, they're dynamics that, even though we don't agree with them, that we can learn from, so we can try and understand. But again, it's also about what we come across. You know, again, to some degrees, and, you know, first part of my life was very, you know, structured within that dynamic. As I became a little bit older and my mother dragged me around, you know, to the hippie festivals and the folk festivals, I saw a whole nother dynamic that I would have never seen otherwise. You know, the first couple times I went down south, I experienced some very ugly elements of racism because the people that I was performing and playing with, some of them were black. And the places we went to, we didn't realize that black folks still weren't welcome. But I also encountered incredibly beautiful, loving people, both black and white and otherwise, when I went through the South. So again, not everybody is a particular way just because they're from a place. So, you know, just because you're from the South doesn't mean you're a racist. Just because you're from Texas doesn't mean, you know, you're an asshole. Though, if Shiya is listening here, Texas, you know, I'm still not sure about. I'm okay with Oklahoma. I'm okay with New Mexico. But I'm thinking we might have to give Texas back to Mexico. I don't know. What do you folks think? Should we give Texas back? You know what I mean? Do we just kind of just write Texas off and just say, hey, you know what, Mexico, you can take it back. We'll build a whole new border. And Texas can be like kind of the, you know, like the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in between, that we can just contain everything in. George Carlin had a skit that he talked about where he was basically going to put a fence around Kansas, and he was going to stick all the rapists and the assholes and the child molesters and all the fucking scumbags, and everybody, we were just going to put them all in Kansas with a big fence, And then periodically we would like throw guns and weapons at them and then sell it on pay-per-view. Make a couple bucks, a little bit of entertainment. Now again, it's all sarcasm. Hey, listen, it's okay. I'm an asshole too. It's okay. We can embrace that inner dynamic. Now again, there are degrees of it, that I can be an asshole being, humorous and joking within context. Or, you know what I mean? Again, if you're a fucking neo-Nazi who shows up on my doorstep trying to sell a copy of Mein Kampf, yeah, I'm going to be a really big fucking asshole. Or you're a Scientologist showing up trying to get me to sign some kind of funky life type of contract. Yeah. Well, yeah, Andy's like, no, annex Mexico, boom, they are already in the U.S. Listen, listen, here's another analogy. We've got the technology. Why don't we just get all the out-of-work construction guys? We kind of go down there to the border, and instead of building a fucking fence, why don't we just dig a fucking 20-mile fucking trench that literally goes down to, like, the fucking core of the earth so that there's no way nothing is coming across? I mean, I think that would make a lot of people happy. Now, again, keep in mind, that's not going to stop anybody from flying in or taking a boat or, going to Toronto to watch a Blue Jays game and then sneaking in through Niagara Falls. I mean, here's the shitty reality with all of this stuff. And again, I say it jokingly, but again, if we're going to have an honest conversation, shit's not going to stop. Unless we build a giant concrete dome around the whole fucking country and literally set it up like the fucking Death Star with stormtroopers every 6 inches around the whole fucking perimeter, you're never gonna stop it. Again, I understand why a lot of people get upset about it, okay? Because most of us, we work hard, we pay taxes, and we have no idea what the fuck anybody's doing with the money they keep taking from us. And they take it out of our paychecks, and you go to the gas pump, and they take it out of the gas pump, and you go buy milk, and they take it out of the fucking milk, and you buy a TV, and they buy it out of the TV. Guess what? You need electricity? Well, you're going to pay tax on the fucking electricity to run for the fucking TV that you already paid tax on. And guess what? Oh, you want to actually watch something on TV? Well, guess what? Now you got to have this, that, or the other thing, because we don't have TV like we used to. So if you actually want to watch something, you got to... It's fucking insanity. It's crazy. Most people, and, again, I say this with humor, but also with a degree of seriousness. Most people they want to come home and they just want to live their lives. They don't want to deal with the bullshit. They don't want to deal with the rhetoric and the craziness. They're not out shooting people. They're not, over on one crazy end. They're not communists, they're not socialists, they're not racist, and I mean this in the dynamic of left and right. They just want to live, you know what I mean? And they don't want to have to pay ridiculous fucking taxes, but they also don't want to have to worry about, swarms of undead just, streaming across, the fucking boundaries, because here is the unfortunate reality. We can't take care of our own. How the fuck are we going to take care of anybody else? And that's not because I don't care, because I truly do. Really, really do. Okay? But it's obvious that we can't take care of our own. Okay? You have children that fucking starve on a daily basis. You have senior citizens, elderly people that live on the street. Dogs live better than a good population of our elderly. And don't even get me started about veterans, okay? We send these people off to get blown up, shot, and killed and stuff like that, and they come back and they live in fucking cardboard boxes or struggle with PTSD or other horrible elements and stuff. And, we pay them less than we do the fucking crack kid who fucks up your fries every time you go to McDonald's. There's something wrong with that, okay? And people talk about, this, that, and the other thing. And, here's another dynamic. You know what I mean? Most police officers, again, are not paid really well. So that doesn't attract really good people to be police officers. So again, I humbly suggest that the problem is not that we need to get rid of the police. We need to have a better system so we can have better police officers. Because guess what? The scumbag asshole ones, they don't represent the whole, okay? And that's what gets attention. That's what catches people's eye, okay? And rightfully so, you know? And sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. A lot of people are upset because you have, you know, a drunk black guy who gets shot 16 times trying to run away versus a kid who walked into a supermarket in military tactical gear, live streaming mass murder, and they talked him down. Hey, kid, you know, no, Lord. And they took him away all nice and peaceful. I think a lot of us look at that and say, you know what? In any other reality, if that had been a person of color, I don't even think there would have been a fucking conversation, because we've seen too many times where that happens. Now, does that reflect all police officers? No, of course not. We would have fucking anarchy if we did not have some semblance of law and order, law enforcement. But in the same element, you know what I mean? We have to be able to do better, okay? And certain things, like I'm all for the Second Amendment. I believe that people should have the right to bear arms if they either want to use it for hunting, or if they want to use it for target practice, or if they just simply want it for their peace of mind and security. However, if you're 18 years old and you've already been put on a mental hold, okay, for mental elements and issues, there's no reality that they should have access to a fucking weapon. That doesn't violate the Second Amendment. That doesn't fuck with you or me. We have to be able to do better, okay? We really do. These things shouldn't happen. And again, the dynamic isn't just white and black in California, okay? You had a Vietnamese man, or a Malaysian, I'm not sure, they're, you know, again, but it basically was somebody of Asian descent that had problem with other Asians, aka Chinese, and attacked based on that. So again, violence isn't unique to one race or one people or one culture. It's just what gets focused on. Again, if you go to Ireland, you're going to see a whole lot of fucking violence, but it's a different kind of violence, okay? And if you go to Libya, you're going to see a whole lot of violence. It's just a different kind of violence. If you go to Palestine and the West Bank, I mean, Jesus Christ, in the West Bank, okay, they shot a Palestinian American journalist, just brained her, shot her in the fucking head, okay? And then to make matters worse, then police stormed the fucking funeral because they just don't like the context that some people believe that when you oppress a people, be it in South Africa, be it in Palestine, be it in China, or whatever the fuck it is, that it's wrong, okay? And I'm not condoning terrorism. I'm not saying that gives people the right to throw on a fucking suicide vest and go blow some shit up. No, that's not acceptable either. We have extremists on all ends of the spectrum. But you cannot, and it's never worked historically. Every culture, every civilization, this has not worked. It didn't work for the fucking Egyptians when the Jews came out, and it's not going to work the other way with the Palestinians. You cannot oppress a people, take their land, kill their children, and expect that they're just going to sit idly by and do nothing. Okay? Jesus Christ, when they raised taxes on us, we had a fucking revolution and fought a war to establish our own country. And we refer to them as heroes. Okay? They were our founding fathers. But to King George and the British, we were fucking terrorists. Okay? Now, again, I'm not condoning violence. But if you even step back a little bit, and if you look at it historically, it's all about that perspective again. On one side of the fence, from our perspective, we were freedom fighters, and we have a 4th of July to celebrate it every year for our independence. As far as Britain is concerned, we were a bunch of rebel terrorists. Now, again, they were a colonial empire that basically, just like India and a lot of other places around the world, they controlled, not unlike how Rome, how Greece, how Egypt, how many civilizations throughout history has tried to dominate the people around them, to bring them into the new age, to bring them education and culture. Just make sure it's my God, because my God is not only better than your God, but my God told me to fuck you and your family up in the name of said God. This is where it all goes fucking sideways. This is where it all goes out the fucking window. And again, boom, boom, violence. So communication, maybe, is our path forward. Now, again, a lot of people say, and rightfully so, well, we've been talking about this shit for generations. Nothing has fucking changed. Well, maybe the context, again, is not so much what we're saying, but how are we saying it? Are we really, again, being honest? And again, I'm not saying this in a framework to say, hey, Israel is bad, or this place is bad, or less than. But there are certain truths to things, and we all have a part to play. There is no perfect context, okay? There is no government. There's no country, okay? Norway, Switzerland, just because they're neutral. Yeah, no, believe me. Listen, we've all got a part to play, okay? We've all got ugly dynamics of our past, of our history, and more importantly, within the framework of the here and now. But, and as Chris says, one of the basic reasons people came to America was freedom of religion. That's a great context. You're absolutely right. And part of our Constitution and part of our framework was very specifically centered around that, the separation of religion and politics. Yet, now, to many degrees, religion is one of the driving forces within politics. And I'm sorry, again, there's no way to dance around it because, and we'll use the current event analogy, the Supreme Court is getting ready to gut Roe versus Wade because of the religious opposition, the morality context of abortion. Whereas on the other side of the fence, it's a very simple dynamic, a woman's right to choose. Now, again, I would humbly suggest in the same dynamic that we have a Second Amendment, that we have a First Amendment, that we have a Fourth Amendment, that a woman's right to choose, okay, should be a fundamental aspect. Because here's the other side. And I say this to men because I think this is more indicative, though a lot of women are anti-abortion as well too, but I'll approach it from this angle. If we start regulating men's dicks, AKA, you know what I mean? You know, we're going to put a little microchip on, and if your dick goes someplace it's not supposed to be, okay, guess what? You're now liable. You're now responsible for everything that goes with it. You don't get to just play runaway fuckboy daddy anymore. And I guarantee you the politics and the optics now will go absolutely on it. Oh, no, I'm a man. You can't tell me what to do with my fucking body. It's bullshit. It is absolutely bullshit. Now, again, I am not debating or questioning the context of morality, okay? Morality is a separate issue, and it is an issue that is personal and unique to the individual. I don't like the context of any death-related thing. So, yes, I'm not for abortion personally, but I believe a woman, an individual, has the right to choose, because there are so many fucking variables. And again, some of this is just so ridiculous that it's specifically designed, I at least feel, to create conflict, okay? So why in any reality, if we're going to at least try and protect children, why would we prevent a woman who's been raped? Why would we force a woman to carry a rapist child? All right, because you're not going to tell me that that's fucking God's will. That's bullshit, okay? I'm tired of people blaming God for human fuckery, okay? No, zero, out the door. Doesn't work that way. Same context. Incest, rape, they're all within that same dynamic spectrum. No woman should be forced to deal with that dynamic. So again, how do we justify this with any morality? And more importantly, how do we play, and I'm just saying this again as a generic context, how do we play that morality card and use Jesus in it? Well, you know, the Bible, God, Jesus, here we go. But Jesus hung out with whores. He hung out with lepers. He threw bankers, the money handlers, out of the fucking temple. All of Jesus's words were about love, compassion, tolerance, and a radical shift from the controlling mechanisms of money, corruption, and misogyny. Okay? Make no mistake, you think it's coincidental that the Gospels of Mary Magdalene were just whitewashed and disappeared? You think there's any coincidence that Henry VIII, when he literally, for the sake of wanting to get a divorce, created Church of England? These are not coincidences, people. This is history. This is the dynamic that, again, is very simply right there. You don't have to like it, and you don't even actually have to agree with it 100%, but you can't ignore it. And again, if we could just find a little bit of the common ground, you know what I mean? Again, we scream and talk about aspects about, hey, we don't want to do this, but, you know, we'll run around dropping bombs. You know what I mean? You know, fucking senseless killings in the name of this, that, and the other thing. So, you know, again, it's a double standard. You know, it is not honest, in my opinion. Brother John talks about the Libertarian Party's official stance on abortion. I wish everyone else would adopt it. You know, again, I've tried to for many years because, again, and I can only put this in a very simple concept. As a man, I really don't feel that I should have a say in it. You know what I mean? I speak about it because, you know, I have a mother, I have a sister, I have a girlfriend, I have friends, I have nieces, I have women in my life that pretty much across the board, all of them, whether they believe in the morality context or not, believe in the simple dynamic of the right to choose. That is really, I think, a core part of what democracy is supposed to be about, that we're not supposed to force these dynamics. It's the same thing that Chris mentioned in the context of, you know, religious freedom. That religious freedom is part of that, at least, again, in my humble opinion. You know what I mean? But that communication. So how do we have these conversations? How do we find a way around? How do we get past the politics and the rhetoric and the fucking ding-a-ling? Now, for all intents and purposes, and again, I'm not condoning this. This is not me suggesting. This is me predicting, okay? And I predict that this move is going to create a lot of conflict, a lot of drama, and unfortunately, it's going to, as a side effect, cause violence. If we have learned nothing historically, is that when you push too far on people's right to choose, and I don't care if it's right to choose an abortion or right to choose to own a gun or right to choose where they shop or right to choose which god they worship, they get hostile and it causes conflict. And we've been seeing a lot of conflict that is being driven by ideological and societal elements. My God is better than yours. Oh, you're on the left, you must be a socialist. You must be a communist. Oh, you're on the right, you must be a racist. You must be a Nazi. This is fucking insanity, okay? Not everybody on the left is a fucking communist, trust me, okay? And not everybody on the right is a racist, trust me, okay? Just because you believe in certain conservative idealisms does not translate. But if your actions, okay, so if you hang out with a bunch of people on the weekends and you wear hoods and you sing songs like "Let's Kill the Jews," then yes, you're a fucking racist, okay? And I'm sorry, I'm tired of dancing around that, okay? My grandfather fought in World War II, okay? A lot of people died in World War II to fight the fucking Nazis and to stop that insanity, okay? And there's no reality that I see where it ends up good, okay, for anybody. So as far as I'm concerned, there are certain dynamics that, yeah, if you're a fucking Nazi, fuck you. You get called out, okay? You don't get to have it both ways. You can't talk about that dynamic, okay, waving a fucking white supremacist bullshit or, you know, throwing fucking, you know, imaginary gang signs or, oh, this is our 1776. Yeah, we all know the dog whistles for what they are. It's bullshit, okay? Now, granted, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that, for whatever reasons, they've been conditioned, they've been tricked, they've been lied to and manipulated on both ends of the spectrum, okay? On both ends. This is not just a right thing. This is a left thing, too. Because we have too many fucking crazy people on the left that just want to fucking destroy, you know, every aspect of the economy so that way a couple extra dandelions can grow. And again, I say that sarcastically, but yeah, there are certain elements in regards to left politics that are just fucking ridiculous. We have more important things to frame on, and we have to find a common ground. All right, if we all just stand around like children pouting about how we're not going to give an inch, everything's going to burn around us. And I think that's a bigger part of the dynamic where a lot of people are frustrated. They are frustrated of sitting here watching politicians, corporations, these groups that don't represent you and I really. They don't give a shit about us or our children or any future that doesn't, you know, again, make profit for them, okay? And again, anybody who doesn't believe it, just look at your local representative, your local senator, okay? Because everything that they do is public knowledge. It's open there. So you can look at the monies, and each and every one of them, I don't care what fucking state you're from, each and every one of them move millions of dollars every year through political action committees, through lobbyists, through special interest group, from political supporters, okay? Even a 5-year-old child understands the dynamic that when you have that much money in play, that this isn't true, this isn't honest, this is bullshit, okay? This is a stacked deck for the rest of us. Now, here is, again, this is the beautiful thing about history. And all you big corporations out there, or, you know, Mr. FBI man who's, you know, listening in from his van around the corner, this is where it's going to fucking end up if people don't wake the fuck up. Okay? It's what happened to Egypt. It's what happened to Greece. It's what happened to the fucking Roman Empire. It's what's happened to every civilization since the beginning of recorded time. Okay? It doesn't work. It's never worked. Okay? And ultimately, all that happens is a lot of chaos and a lot of blame, and everybody that's left has to clean up the fucking mess and start from scratch in a lot of ways. Now, I don't want to see that happen. I don't think many of you want to see that happen. And you say, well, Wolf, what do we do? There's no magical wand. You do the little things that you can do. But I think the most important thing that we can do, and it goes back to the whole thing from the beginning, is communicate. Listen to each other more. Try and understand what's driving. Don't automatically assume because of this, that, and the other thing. Now, again, it doesn't mean that we should just blindly, you know, follow this, that, or the other thing, or allow people to override us or to bully us. And, you know, to some degrees, unfortunately, yes, there's going to be a dynamic of polarization. People are upset because there's an emotional context. They took our guns! They're trying to kill the American way of life! I don't know what this reality is, okay? I don't know what this imaginary fear is, because guess what? History check, folks. Unless you are Native American, as in one of the original Indian tribes, we're all immigrants, motherfuckers. Let me say that again. We are all immigrants to some degree or another, again, unless you are one of the Native American tribes. Because guess what? We came here from someplace else and took it from the people that did leave here. Ironically, we ran away from a place looking for religious freedom and then shoved our religions down on everyone around us, and anybody that didn't want to go along with it, they either got killed or shoved onto a reservation. True story. Now, that's not to say that Sabrina did that, or John did that, or Chris did that, or Paula, or me, or anybody else, and it doesn't even mean anybody theoretically in our ancestry did it. But that is the history of our country. Just like slavery is part of the history of our country. But guess what? Historically, most cultures, to some degree or another, has had some form of it. Back in the times of the Romans, they would feed Gauls and people of Nordic descent, or political dissidents, Christians. They all got fed to the fucking lions for sport. Or you got sent to work here or work there. Okay, so again, make no mistake. The Irish have been enslaved. The Aborigines in Australia were enslaved. Okay? The Japanese were enslaved for a period of time. It goes on and 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 on. So everybody at some point in time has that dynamic that's in play. But we live in a time, or at least I believe we live in a time, that we should know better. That most of us agree that, yeah, slavery's not a fucking good thing. Yeah, there are some white peoples whose first ancestors came here after fucking slavery. You're right. That had nothing to do with the dynamic, especially, you know, if you were, you know, like second generation Irish, you know what I mean? Or you came from Finland, or you came from Ukraine, even if you came from fucking, you know, Nairobi. You know what I mean? Just because you're black doesn't mean that you necessarily had anything to do with the historical context. But these are the stereotypes. These are the conditioned triggers. So when we have these conversations, some people flip out. Oh, critical race theory. You're trying to condition us. No, we're trying to teach children the truth. So that way, maybe we don't repeat the same fucking mistakes. But some people would rather lie. And as I said in the beginning, nothing is gained by dishonesty. There's no future in lies. The lie is meant to control, to manipulate, to avoid the uncomfortable truth. And the only reason it's an uncomfortable truth is because there are still people who share the ideology. There are still people who believe that white people are superior and that everybody else is somehow less than, and that this is somehow a God-given thing. That our Lord Jesus Christ, the white God himself, okay, has ordained that everybody else is fucking less than. And as such, it is our job. No, it's God's mandate that we enforce his fucking will and we set it right for white America. Again, fucking insanity. Absolute fucking insanity. Okay? Now, again, I'm not saying that Jesus wasn't a real person. I believe that he was. I don't think he was white. If you look at it again from a historical context, from the time period and the location of Judea, they really weren't white people there in that time period. The Bible describes him of bronze-colored skin with the woolen hair like a sheep. That sounds like nappy hair to me. That sounds like a brother. That sounds uncomfortably for some like a black man or a man of darker descent. I mean, no coincidence that this section of the world is, you know, like a Disney jump away from Africa. Okay, folks? Now, why is that so uncomfortable? Again, I present to people, does Jesus lose his power? Does he lose credibility if he isn't white? Does it make it all fall apart if he's actually black? Now, mind you, in the particular context of faith and spirituality, it really shouldn't matter what color he is. But again, if we're going to have an honest conversation, the chances are really fucking slim that he was the white guy that is portrayed in so much of biblical context. Just doesn't make sense. But here's the thing. We already know that throughout history that the Bible's been edited. The Bible's been edited many times. A lot of it's been thrown out. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene was completely eliminated because men did not want any context of a framework of female independence. Oh no, fuck that. We own you. I fuck you when I want. You cook my dinner, you clean. Women were possessions. And anybody who's interacted with a child before knows that children don't like giving up their toys. So you try to take a child's toy away, they throw a fucking tantrum. So that's all this really was tantrums. You know, they didn't want the status quo being disturbed. They didn't want women having freedom of expression, that their thoughts, their ideas, these things were somehow on par with that of a man. You know, I'm just saying, I mean, it's not like women gave birth to men and are the absolute most important process of the life cycle, but somehow They're just not equal to men, especially not equal to white men. You see how this all fucking falls apart? And again, I'm not trying to take away from Christianity. I'm not trying to say that Jesus isn't real. I'm not trying to say that faith is bad or any of those things. But you know what? If your story is filled with contradictions and lies and bullshit, get your shit straight. Don't come trying out and pretend to be something that you're not. Sure, that's beautiful. Your family is a rainbow of colors. It's the way it should be. And Liz, thank you. In many ways, we are all still enslaved in many ways. The dynamics are just different. We have to pay taxes. We have to pay rent. We have to pay a mortgage. We got to pay electric bill. We got to pay, for gas and food. And we have to jump through these hoops to survive within the dynamics of a societal structure that really doesn't give a shit. Because it's all driven by money, profit, greed, control. That's why you've seen, in my humble opinion, such a dramatic shift recently with people just saying, fuck it. I don't want to work for some asshole anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. So you've been seeing a huge jump in entrepreneurial aspects. People just saying, you know what? I'd rather fucking collect empty soda cans than work for these motherfuckers anymore. Because they will. They'll squeeze every drop of life out of you. They don't give a shit about safety. I can't tell you the number of fucking OSHA violations I have seen in my life from this place to that place. I don't believe for a second that overall, and I'm not saying this company in particular or that company in particular, but overall, it's all bullshit. Okay? They don't really give a shit. Okay? It's the same context with a lot of our legal system. And you talk to any woman that's been a fucking victim of domestic abuse, the fucking bullshit they have to go through to try and get a restraining order for these scumbags to just come strolling right back in and do whatever the fuck they want. It's bullshit. And that's why people don't believe. They've seen too much of the bullshit. They watch these politicians go on TV and lie out the side of their faces. They brag about grabbing women by the pussy. When the guy who's supposed to set the standard is throwing that shit out there, now you wonder why we have a generation of younger men that are like, fuck it, we're going to grab him by the pussy. If he can do it, I can do it. And it's not just on that side. The other analogy that you have, on the other side of the fence, you got these fucking gangster motherfuckers who are like, yeah, fuck them bitches. I'm going to take my fucking Mac and I'm going to fucking... You know what? That's how you end up dead. That's how you end up a fucking statistic. And I don't think any woman appreciates that. So we have all these elements. Oh, and it gets better because it's not just guys. You know what I mean? You got your Paris Hiltons and your Kim Kardashians and, you got these floozies out there that'll be like, hey, here's my pussy, pay me. But a woman who's a porn star is a whore because she's honest about it. You know what I mean? So how is this in any semblance, a viable reality for anybody? And again, it's not a context of morality. It shouldn't matter who's fucking who. Okay? Especially if it has nothing to do with you, if nobody's fucking you. But also in the dynamic that we'll set these double standards up. We'll say in one instance, oh, well, you can't do this. But over here, oh, well, but that's okay because blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. It is self-rationalization, semantics, justification, whatever, rubber stamp you want to, stomp on it. But people are tired of it, and people are tired of it across the spectrum. So again, where do we go? Well, some of it is, we got to vent out the crazy shit. We're going to be like, get it out. Okay, fine. Everybody scream. Everybody get it out. Cool. Let's get back to some common ground. Basic things that we can all, I think, agree on. Nobody wants to get shot in the street or when they go to the fucking supermarket. So we have to have a better context about this, okay? Just something to at least make the effort. I don't say take all the guns away, but you know what? In the same instance, if you've got fucking mental issues or you've got fucking domestic violence or you've got any type of background that suggests you're unstable, violent, or fucking flaky, fuck you. You gave up your rights. Just like if you forget to pay a parking ticket, they'll suspend your fucking license and you can't drive. So I don't want to hear that, well, you know, ultimate right. No, if you don't fucking do your part, fuck you, you don't get it. The end. Simple context for women. It's not up to us to tell somebody else what to do with their body. Leave it the fuck alone. Let people decide for themselves. It's the same thing with all of the gay and transgender stuff. You know what? Unless somebody is trying to fuck you, it has nothing to do with you. Leave it alone. Okay, I understand if they're fucking in the middle of the street, then yes, you have a right to say, hey, please stop fucking in the middle of the street. I don't want my kids to see that. If they're trying to live stream it into your kid's fucking Game Boy, yes, you have a right to say, hey, I don't want my kid to say that. Okay? If the fucking third grade teacher is having conversations about the fucking benefits of deep throat, you have a right to say, you know what? I don't want my 7-year-old child learning about oral sex from you. These are contextual elements, okay? It's not always black and white. But when you tell people that, hey, you can't love who you want to love, and, you know, if somebody rapes you and gets you pregnant, even though your doctor says that you might actually die because you've had 7 miscarriages over the past 20 years, and for whatever reason, this is now a credible and real medical threat to your life, but somehow, because somebody somewhere says, well, this is a morality issue, God says that you have to die. Except when it's them. Oh, well, my God said it doesn't apply to me. It just applies to you because you're not the same color as me or you don't make the same money as me. See, I'm going on a rant now. Y'all just let me go and I'm gonna fucking go crazy with that shit. And Rosa, I agree with you. Let people decide what they want to do with their bodies. Again, as long as it's not affecting somebody else. Okay? But also in the same thing, we should not be teaching 7-year-olds about sexuality in school. Okay? No. That's way too young. Okay? And that really something, again, that should be determined by the parents. It should not be that their kid comes home from school and be like, Mommy, what's a penis? Of course people are going to freak out when that shit happens. It's also the same analogy with some of the transgender stuff. Listen, I don't have a problem if you want to identify as this, that, if you want to identify as fucking Bugs Bunny. But I don't believe that that means that you should get to, you know, go into a female children's bathroom as a biological male. Okay? It isn't just about how you feel, it's about how other people feel around you, and especially in the context with children. It's not fair. Okay? Nobody's saying you can't do what you want to do at home, in your fucking closet, in your room, in your home, but it's not fair to force it off onto other people, whether we like it or not. It's the same analogy, and I know a lot of people, again, have a bit of a hard time with this, but if a business, say a bakery, does not want to make a cake for a gay couple, that's their right. It has nothing to do with the couple. That's their fucking racism or their sexual dysfunction or whatever their fuck up is. You just go to somebody else, but they have that right. Just as you have the right as a gay or a transgender person to not spend your money there, not to do business with them. It has to go both ways. Now, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. And then you have every right to go on Google and say, hey, listen, 1-star review. I went to this place and they didn't want to bake a cake because they didn't like the fact that I sucked dick. Well, that's a pretty shitty business model. Well, I pretty much guarantee you, again, they may cater to a particular clientele, but that's the beauty. If you don't like what's on the radio station, change the fucking radio station. It doesn't mean that you go cancel out Lynyrd Skynyrd because, once upon a time they had a fucking Confederate flag on one of their albums. That doesn't make them fucking racist. They don't sing songs about, hey, let's go kill the black people. No. Okay? Context. You have to look at it for what it is. Hey, Melissa, great to see you. And again, we can have some of those variances. Okay? I understand for some people why certain things will be triggered. How you feel is important. Especially, and again, in a dynamic that's traumatic. As a man, I will never understand, or I pray I'll never understand, and I don't mean to be flippant on this, but I won't understand in the context of what it's like to be pregnant, because I'll never be pregnant, hopefully, okay? There's no way for me to correlate that. Just like I hope to God that I'm never raped, but I can't relate to it within the context of somebody who has been raped. I can empathize, I can intellectualize it, but I cannot truly connect to it because it's not a shared experience. Okay? There is no common ground connection. All it is hypothetical, theoretical between our emotions and our mind. Unless you've actually physically experienced a dynamic of thing, it's something different. It's the same analogy. People who've never raised a child, please don't try and tell me how children act or what good or bad parenting elements are, okay? Because you probably really don't have any practical knowledge. Now, don't get me wrong. I think anybody could agree that dragging your kid across the supermarket by his hair is bad parenting. You don't need to have a child to understand that's not how you do it, okay? Context. Certain things based on situation. But we can talk about it. We can have conversations. We can rant and pontificate. You can start a podcast like I do and just talk for 2 hours and play music and interact with people and laugh and scream and hey, whatever the fuck and whatever the fuck. And maybe with any a little bit of luck, we all can take a little piece of it and hopefully it'll apply in some other dynamic in our world, especially when, we're struggling with other things, when the world is, shitty and there's assholes around us or, people are just pushing on that last button. We can find those little dynamics of the things. And yes, I ranted about this, that, and the other thing because there are all these horrible things going on and people are all just like, hey. But there's a lot of beautiful out there. There's a lot of really great things, The world is alive still today, and it's in our best interest to keep it that way. You know what I mean? So the little degrees, the little things that we can do for each other, even if it's just, hey, I don't understand what you're going through, but I'll listen, okay? I may not like it, but I care enough that it's important that you know that I'm here. And even if it's just to be your emotional punching bag for a few moments, it's a lesser of two evils again versus somebody jumping off a fucking bridge or putting a gun in their mouth or, taking a bunch of pills or all the horrible things that people find themselves drawn to or forced into. They feel that they don't have any connections. They don't have any options. I was mentioning this earlier when I got kind of distracted by the monkey. We've seen an incredibly huge spike the past couple of years between the pandemic and all the polarization of things in depression, in addiction, suicide, domestic violence, you know, all these really ugly symptomatic elements are on a huge spike because there's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of really shitty energy, a lot of shitty dynamics, and people are struggling in many ways. But people are also frustrated. They've had enough, so they're lashing out in a lot of ways too. And unfortunately, as with most times in this, there is collateral damage. That's what happened in Buffalo. Now, listen, again, I live in Rochester, New York. I'm about an hour or so away from Buffalo. Okay, and it's everything that I've read and said. This kid was in my neighborhood, okay, cruising around looking for targets because we have a very large black community within Rochester. Now, let me tell you something. Rochester is a dynamic community. It has Italians, it has African Americans, it has Chinese, it has German, it has Irish. It is really a very diverse community. So, you know, to disparage a community because of a particular race element, to say, oh, Rochester's less than because of black people, that's absolute bullshit. Okay? Absolute bullshit. But here's the reality. This kid associated Buffalo and Rochester. He drove way out of his fucking way. It wasn't like he went down to his local supermarket and shot some folk. He went out of his way to find a high concentration of people of color that he believed were less than, and then proceeded to body armor up and live stream that shit while he went hunting people down, okay? People's lives were lost. Families were destroyed, okay? This is not acceptable dynamics, okay? And again, I'm not blaming the parents. I'm not saying, hey, this kid is, as far as I'm concerned, responsible. But also in the same instance, he took actions as an adult. He should stand for it as an adult. There's no reason, again, to allow this insanity to go unchecked. Because I'm telling everybody now, if we don't find a way to put some of this in check, it's just going to get worse. And then more and more people are going to be collateral damage. Now, there are a lot of people that want that to happen. So understand where some of this dynamic is coming from. This replacement theory stuff is a real thing. It's an underlying dynamic for racism, for white nationalism, for the drive. And again, keep in mind, they want conflict. They see conflict is the only way to shift the dynamic, okay? It's not unlike what they did to witches back in the day. They fucking burned them. What happens when a country comes in and takes over another place? They usually wipe out the indicative population. That's the core drive here, is they want to get rid of people of color. And because they're not going to go away willingly or freely, the only option is now violence. And that's what is talked about in a lot of these dynamics, is starting that race war, forcing the element of confrontation, so that way, again, when it's all said and done, they believe that they will be the ones to write the new history of the white man. Okay? And listen, as a white man, I don't buy into it. I believe it's bullshit. Most of the white people that I know don't buy into it. Okay? So you got to remember, this is really, and this is what they really hate about it, reflective of a minority belief forcing their fucking insanity on the rest of us. That's what extremism is about. You have extremism within Muslim aspects. That's what happened with 9/11. But you have Christian Muslim, fundamentalism as well. the Oklahoma City bombing, and Brother John, I know you understand this dynamic. That was Christian extremism, okay? Don't confuse the elements. The stuff that was going on in Ireland for years between the IRA and between the Protestants and Catholics. That wasn't about black or white. That was about Protestant and Christian. These dynamics are everywhere. And it's about that conflict. It's about that driving element to dominate. Okay? If you're not going to do it my way, my God says I have to fucking kill you. This is the Crusades. This has been the dynamic since the beginning. And again, close it out with that kind of full circle thing. History has proven to us that it doesn't work, that it ends badly. Okay? When the French Revolution went down, they didn't do it politely. They took the fucking, the aristocracy, and they basically cut their fucking heads off. Okay? The Russian Revolution, that didn't go down all casual and pretty like. Okay? They basically wiped out the Romanov family and everybody and anything else that was associated with the old regimes and took power and control. It's what happened in Cuba. And Castro came in under the guise of being a liberator for his people. And all he did was just bring communism and a bunch of rhetoric, because the real truth of the matter is the Russians backed him. They gave him the finances, the weapons, and the tools to be able to take power. He didn't give a shit about the people, just the same as, the politicians here. They don't give a shit about you or I or anything else, really. This is the same thing that goes on all over the place. It's about power, it's about money, it's about control, it's about manipulation. And listen, granted, yeah, we have to have systems in place so that way we can keep everything working and keep the trains on time. I get that. But you can't tell me that we can't do it a little bit better. We have the technology. Okay? Listen, fucking Jetsons were flying around. They were all cool. You didn't see, any of this shit. So let's just agree to say, let's try and be like the Jetsons. Okay? I'd like to have a flying dog named Astro, wouldn't you? I'd like to be able to just zip in my spaceship and not get stuck in fucking traffic. I'd like to have a robot that reminds me of my appointments and cleans my underwear for me so I don't have to bother Shiya for that shit. Okay? These would be all good things. And we wouldn't have to worry about stupid shit. We wouldn't have to worry about fucking crazy 18-year-olds fucking walking into supermarkets with automatic weapons. Or, as we clarify, semi-automatic weapons. Because that's a really important clarification that you need to have during a mass shooting. Because we don't want to refer to it as an automatic weapon. Oh, that violates so many things. It's a semi. It's a killing machine, man. I don't give a fuck if it's semi-automatic or fucking dick-o-matic, okay? He used it to kill people. Now, granted, and it's the old Planet of the Apes joke, guns don't kill people. Apes with guns killed people. And if you go back to Cain and Abel, they didn't need no fucking guns. You'll just brain somebody with a rock. So violence is not exclusive, okay? Even if we took away all the fucking guns, people would make fucking bows and arrows out of fucking toilet paper. Okay? It's a human context. We find ways to hurt each other. Okay? So, yes, it's not a perfect solution. It's not going to make it go away. But we could do better. Okay, we could throw the politics out and just say, hey, listen, certain elements, you've gotten clipped on domestic violence. If you prove that you're a violent person, man or woman, fuck you, you're not entitled to a gun. If you have psychiatric mental issues, I'm sorry, you don't need a gun, or you shouldn't have a gun, okay? I'm not trying to take your rights away, but the rest of us shouldn't have to worry if you're going to have a breakdown and do something fucking crazy in a school or a supermarket or a fucking movie theater, all right? When I go to the movies, I don't have to want to worry about getting fucking shot. I don't think anybody else does. And I don't think that's too much to ask. That's a fair compromise. But that's just me. So anyway, thank you for letting me vent. As always, I love you all. Truly, I do. I'm going to close it out with a track that Shiya did. It's reflective again, and for all the women out there, just because it's a really shitty time, unfortunately, that are coming back at you. They want to take away your right to choose and stuff like that. I'm sorry. It's fucked up. I don't agree with it. But in that spirit, I'm going to close out the night with Her Desperate Mind. It was written by a friend of ours, another witch, Suzanne Kuhn, and it is reflective of the dynamic that women find themselves in, being objectified and being conditioned and trained into thinking that they're less than. And to all the women and everybody out there, man or woman, doesn't have to define who you are. Okay, it really doesn't. We have not only that right, but we have that power. It's just a lot of times we don't realize it because we don't know how to use it, or we're not sure, sometimes even just because we're afraid. But it's there. So know that you are loved. Thank you again. And until next time, have a great night. Her Desperate Mind.